So it's been a while since we sat down last. I can't even remember the last time that we've sort of
probably
sat
the Gary
down
Vee book.
and,
I think I would guess when we read Crushing It, the yellow one. I think was probably what it was.
Oh, right.
And we talked about the book, and I don't know. Yeah, I think that's probably the book came out over a year ago. It might have been 2 years.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah, it does. You feel like it's like sometimes on Facebook you'll be scrolling and then you'll give you your memories, and it's like this was 5 years ago, and you feel like that was last week, and then other things will be like this was a year ago, and you're like I feel like that was like 10 years ago.
See, that's the funny thing to me is that I feel that I have like no actual real concept of what time things happen. And I have the same thing, like, really, 5 years? So if I were telling a story, I would be completely off on dates. You know? The information might be, accurate, but the timeline is always going to be off.
I'm so bad with that, too. Like, my mother-in-law and my grandfather, both, they'll be like, I was 3 years old. Like, my grandpa told me a story when he was 6, and the royal family was coming by through Winnipeg at the time, and he was like, his mom gave him, like, a half-hour lecture on what to do if the Queen showed up or whatever, and, like, he told me the weather, what he had for breakfast, all that stuff. And then the train just went by Winnipeg. They didn't even stop at Winnipeg. But like he remembers that detail. And then he could tell me what he had for breakfast the next day. Or like when he tells me about his military stuff, he'll be like, yeah, this guy was this and his family was this. And his first and last name, here was his rank at the time. And he eventually became this, all by date. It's amazing.
Wow.
For me, it's like... at one point in my life, I did this. I couldn't tell you what year, what month, maybe 1 month, but not often.
On a normal basis, are you in touch with the time? Like, do you ever have those days like it's actually Thursday and you think it's Monday and did days matter to you or is it just
not really? Well, like days mattering to me, I think is interesting because like there's two things on that. First off, like. Usually when someone's like, hey, Scott, what time is it? I'll be right within 15 minutes, even if I haven't looked at a clock in hours. So that's not bad. But at the same time, like I think caring about what day of the week it is, if you really don't like what you do, you value Friday, Saturday, Sunday way more than someone who really enjoys what they do, maybe. So like I know I have one friend who like is always counting down to the weekend, like always. So and he's like, oh, it's only Tuesday. Like he says that often, and for me that's not really the case because like Tuesday is my Monday for my job, and when I go to work on Tuesday I'm still stoked to go to work. I've had like one day in like 2 years where I've been like, oh man, I really don't want to go to work, and just it was external stuff at the time. It wasn't really job related. So I think like for myself personally, I'm very fortunate with the job that I have where I don't have that dread, because my previous job was working the oil sands. When Fly Day would arrive and I have to leave for 10 days, I would have that feeling of dread and once you're there, it was fine. But the first day, you're just like, I don't want to leave my family. I don't want to leave my bed. Don't want to leave my passion projects and that kind of thing. So looking at that in the past, like 7-10 years of my life, definitely like when I like what I do, the day of the week doesn't matter. But when I am not enjoying what I do, then it matters more.
So you must have been maximizing your time at that time that you were working at the oil sands, and it's kind of fly in, fly out.
Yeah, I did my best. Like it wasn't like I'm not as efficient as I want to be. I really look up to really efficient people who can like start projects and finish projects and like move on to the next thing. I'm very scattered where like I'll do 10 projects and 3 will finish. So like maybe I'm doing more that way, but I feel like there's some people who just do one thing, start, finish it, and put out more. And I know some people in the oil sands had that. Like I would see that kind of productivity from them. For the most part, I think my productivity was good. Because like I would work my 12-hour shift. I'd go back to my room, work on music for 2 to 4 hours, eat, and then sleep for 4 to 5 hours, and then go back and do that for 10 days. And then the first day back, I'd probably sleep, and then I would make plans with the band, make plans for podcasts and stuff. Like I did some podcast episodes when I was up at work and stuff. So like you just kind of plan your life around it, and I did a really good job like of networking at that job and making friends with my superiors, etc. So then if I was ever like, hey, we just got a show opportunity for POD, can I fly home a day early? They're like, sure. And that was kind of the case. So I worked that job to benefit me as much as possible. Yeah. And like when you're working nights, there's a lot of downtime. So that job really helped me learn how to record bands and learn how to do the fundamentals for mixing. It took me a long time to get to where I'm at now, and I'm still like nowhere near where I need to be, in my opinion. But like that job on the night shift, I was able to like use that time doing things that like furthering myself later in life. So I guess I maximized as much as I could.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working 12 hours in a day and then putting 4 hours into music afterwards, I mean, that's utilizing your time, you know. Assuming the other 8 hours are for sleep, there's really not a lot of downtime in that you have left, really.
Not really. And like you don't, like you're friends with some of your coworkers. Working in the oil sands is actually very interesting. I think a lot of people don't have a firm understanding of what it's like, because you're working with this team of people. It's probably the closest thing, and I'm not saying it's the same, but probably the closest thing would be like a remote police detachment or like some sort of military camp setup, because you're working with these people for 12 hours a day, and then you're taking a half-hour bus ride back to the camp with them. So if one guy listens to his music without headphones at full blast, either on your way to work at 4 a.m. or on your way back after you've done a 12-hour shift, like, and he already pissed you off during the 12-hour shift, it's like you just want to kill this person. And then you go have dinner, and usually people are like, oh, hey, Scott, come sit with you, come sit with us. And it's like, I just spent like 14 hours with you guys. I don't know if I want to do that. Because there's people you would do that with, like your family or friends. Like, sure, I'll spend literally infinite amount of time with certain people, and it doesn't bother me. But with some of your, and some coworkers are great, but it's just like your entire day was with other people. So even as a very extroverted person, I would just be like, I need to do this for myself. So I would probably eat by myself in a corner and then go back to my room as quickly as possible. And then I still have some great relationships from that place, but you can count them on one hand. It's like when you meet your coworkers, if you walk past them in the mall, you probably wouldn't say hi if you didn't work together. Like there would be no connection. But occasionally you bump into a coworker that's like, you guys really have a connection. You hit it off. You hang out outside work. You talk about whatever, and like that's always nice. But not always the case.
Yeah. So now that you've moved on to something else, you know, do you find, you know, your production of music, how you go about producing music, has that changed at all, or you know how you sort of schedule stuff?
It's more consistent for sure. Like with this current job that I have now, I book bands at a venue. I am able to work, like I work Tuesday to Saturday, and Friday and Saturday I start at 6. So like I have technically like Friday day side off and Saturday day side off plus Sunday off, and then Monday is my Sunday. So I have like a lot of time where I could work with a band on a weekend, every weekend, which I didn't have that ability before. So scheduling is definitely easier. You can be a lot more consistent. You miss a lot less. Like when you have that old job, it was like you miss birthdays, you miss concerts that you wanted to attend, a lot of stuff. So this job, like scheduling your life, is certainly easier, and you just have to work on like time management for like education and like furthering your abilities, and then balancing that with like actually time spent doing something. Because like if you're any creative and you're like, hey, I bought every single Creative Live course, I've watched all of them, I have all the Adobe stuff, and I've done all these tutorials, and it's amazing, but you don't have a portfolio, it's useless. It's like you have all that head knowledge, good for you, and maybe you're good, but like you don't have anything to actually sell somebody. You don't have life experience doing it. If I was like, say I was looking for a photographer for a wedding or something, I would look at the person, not who has like, I've done all these Creative Live courses. I'd be like, where's your portfolio? The person who's done 30 weddings and the person who's done all the educational stuff. I'm going to pick the person who has the 30 weddings they've shot for life experience. So like, I think the biggest thing now for me is balancing the education side of things, and also balancing like doing something and building your portfolio.
Right. Because you just recently went down south to, you know, basically educate, you know, increase your knowledge and
to learn. So there's something called Unstoppable Recording Machine. It's run by Joey Sturgis, Joel Wanasek, and A.L. Levy, who are 3 big time metal producers. They did bands like Asking Alexandria, Demon Hunter, Machine Head. There's a few others. They've like worked with those bands, recorded those bands, and they created this educational platform. It's a Facebook forum and a monthly thing where you get professional tracks from bands you like Papa Roach or something. You get those downloaded, and then you mix them, and then you submit into a poll, and then your mix is vetted against a bunch of other peers. And it's very friendly. It's not like it's like a aggressive competitive thing. And then at the end of the month, whoever actually mixed that song that you heard on the radio mixes the song. It's like a pay-per-view. It's like 7 hours where you just sit and watch them create the song from scratch, all the tips and tricks they did to get the final result. And that happens every month. And then this was the summit in Las Vegas, where a lot of the presenters over the past few years were doing keynotes, and the community of people were all there in Vegas. It was about 200 plus people who are all passionate about what you are. And the amount of conversations you have in that kind of setting when you're just in this, like, I don't know what the word would be, but just like, it's like a, I can't even, I'm sorry, but it's like you're surrounded with like 220 other people who feel the exact same way as you. So when you want to talk about like frustrations with clients, you can get amazing insight from your peers. And also, like, the presenters were just at the bar at the end of the night too. So you can literally go talk to Machine, who's produced Lamb of God and Clutch, and just be like, what was that record like? Or like, what do you do for this? Or just ask him about his personal life. And they were like all super receptive to that. So you could get tips on clients, or like how to use a certain plugin. A plugin is like a piece of software that can manipulate audio in some way. I imagine there's similar things in Photoshop and stuff to adjust. So, but just for anyone who's watching who doesn't know what that is, you would just be like, what do you use this plugin for? And then they would just tell you. So it was an amazing space where you were just surrounded by like-minded individuals. And then I find a lot of like summit events you go to, like, you have that high and it wears off, but because the community is so prevalent, like, and active, after it was over, people are still talking, people are still communicating, and it's going, I don't know, it's going really well. I really, really enjoy the role that I have with that company, and the value I've gotten for the information I've gotten is amazing. A lot of people say they spent $20,000 on audio school, and then they did this and they learned everything from this. So it's really top tier education, because you're learning from a brand new person every month. One month it's country, another month it's black metal, then it's radio rock, then it's alternative rock. So you're like learning that you can't just use these same presets on everything. I think there's probably something in photography too, where like people find a color, like they crush the blacks a certain way, and then they paste that on every photo they ever take, and they're not actually looking at the specific photo and saying, this photo actually has a good ratio of I don't know what I'm talking about, but a good ratio of blacks, let's say. Or this one's like got too much red in it, so when I add my filter that automatically boosts red, it's just going to boost it. And like some people probably don't even pay attention to that, I would imagine.
I mean, you know, it's amazing that you have the ability to draw from people with, you know, vast experience, because that fast tracks your learning in a lot of ways. Very much. I mean, especially if you have somebody that's very good at, you know, educating and is a good educator, because they will, you know, help you avoid some of the pitfalls that you may have fallen into if you were, you know, just learning it all yourself. And, you know, they can provide insight, you know, with things that have happened in their career or things that they have done. And, you know, where it goes sideways, or how, you know, to adapt, or, you know, again, I'm not a music engineer by any stretch the imagination, but I imagine, you know, there's a lot of technical knowledge then, unless you really kind of deep dive into it, and, you know, just letting you know, the concept of it. I guess that's, you know, what's important. It's one thing to say I can do this, but not understanding the concept of why you're doing it and how it impacts is the deeper thing. And I imagine people, you know. Oh,
very much so. Like when I first started, I think it started about 4 years ago. So when I first started, it was like this guy goes on and he's like, hey, here's how I mix this song. And then I'm like, all right, I got to buy all these plugins that he's using and use those exact settings on every mix I ever do. And like, I ruined more mixes than I saved. It worked on the specific stems that I had for that month.
Yeah.
But when there's a country month, you try that stuff and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
What I like about it is, like, you'll notice, like, some presenters are very left-brained and they know all the details of what a plugin and a schematic and what it's doing and the exact ratio, something's being compressed and stuff. And some guys are just like, man, like, this sounds good. And so I think that's encouraging for people who watch. They're like, I identify with this person, where they're very left-brained and very like meticulous in how they do things. And then there'll be someone who's very right-brained and scattered and all over the place and not really systematic, and they're still successful. So it's like, oh, you know, I don't have to be this. Like, that would be beneficial, but I don't need that.
Yeah.
I can have a partnership, and he can take care of the left brain stuff, and I can do all the right brain stuff. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll just get an assistant, get them to prepare their sessions. Literally, they just open it, they mix, and then they move on to the next song. They'll do like 8 songs in a day, just because they're so systemized and efficient. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And then you have guys like Deadmau5 who can't even play, and he'll admit fully that this would be so much easier if I knew how to play an instrument, but I don't.
It's not a limitation though, right? Like his spectacle. Did you watch his masterclass?
I have not. No.
Okay, I watched it because I like all aspects of music production, and if there's something I can learn from EDM, then that's cool. But he talks about that. He's like, man, like if I could just play it, I would, but I can't. So he paints. MIDI is something where it's like you tell a keyboard to play something, and that will be any sample. So it could be a synth or a keyboard or drums or whatever the case is. So he paints that all with MIDI. But if you look at his room and all the analog synth, I think he has the actual synth that programmed R2-D2 on Star Wars, which is cool. And in that room, like when he patches his synths and stuff, he really knows what he's doing. It's not that Deadmau5 is an idiot. He just he doesn't have the musical theory knowledge, but he doesn't need it. And other people have the music theory knowledge, like the dudes at Dream Theater. They're all Berkeley graduates, and their music is phenomenal. It's not really my thing, but like their music is phenomenal. And they had the music education, and there's the phrase is 100 ways to skin a cat. I think I don't know where that came from or with it. It's a weird expression, but like there's always what matters is your destination, and how you get there is like you've got to look at yourself, find out your limitations and your skills, and then go that.
It makes me wonder if he ever attempted to play. Only because, if you know that's your limitation, if you know that you can't play a musical instrument or you can't do something, I guess he's got a workaround, but it makes me wonder why, not specifically put some time in and actually learn unless it's, that big of a hurdle for him, which it might be.
Like, I know Gary Vee is all about like triple down on your strengths and don't worry about your weaknesses, outsource your weaknesses. Maybe that's the point he got to. Because I think there's a point where it's like, I don't think anything comes naturally for anybody, and maybe this is wrong. This is my opinion, but when the first time Michael Jordan played basketball, he had fun, so then he kept doing it. Whereas, like, if someone else picked up a basketball and didn't have fun, it didn't come naturally to them, like quote unquote. It's just because he enjoyed it. So when he enjoyed it and he spent the time, it felt like he wasn't investing anything because he just was enjoying himself. And then he got really good.
Yeah.
And then, sure, it came naturally to him. But like the beginning, no one has ever just like picked up a sword and learned how to, be an advanced sword fighter. No one has ever like just grabbed a paintbrush for the first time and painted the Mona Lisa. Like it's like, but the people who get to the Leonardo da Vinci level of art are the ones who spend so much time doing it because they enjoy it. And I think like if you're the kind of person that can like go down at 2 p.m. and suddenly it's 11 p.m. and you've just like spent so much time on something and you literally it felt like that, then that means that would be something that comes naturally to you, I think. And like if playing keyboard did not come naturally to him, he probably sat down, tried to learn, and then was like, I'm just going to play with synths. And he's really, really good at making synths. And in his masterclass, he talks about like, I don't like using plug-in presets. I like building these sounds in analog because even if I build this sound, I take everything out and I repatch it the same way, it's not going to sound the same. It's going to have some subtle variations that are different. And I like that. I like that I'm creating my own sounds. And that's a strong value of his. So the time he spent doing that to create his own synth sounds, I think probably benefited him more than the time it would take to learn music theory.
Right. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting to me because I've only seen that clip and it just surprised me that somebody who has had and he has been very, very successful. And I mean, he also talks about when you're fearful of people judging you and looking at you and potentially laughing at you, then just put on a helmet. And that's where the helmet came from. He was self-conscious. So I mean, he had some struggles, getting through there. He
talks about being an introvert and wearing that too, and how it just frees you to play in front of thousands of people. The course is interesting. So if you have the masterclass membership, it's definitely worth watching. I was going to say something, but I don't remember what I was going to say.
So what have you been working on as of late?
So I'm still booking. I have been working with a few new bands. Like my goal next year for this year for 2020, is to really like push the studio more. I don't know if it'll ever be my extreme like sole source of income because there's opportunity to just like kind of work through and become maybe an educator kind of thing, and like maybe producing bands isn't my main skill, but working for the education system like that works. So like there's a lot of avenues where you can still do what you love, but it's not necessarily what you thought you were going to do when you get into it. But I feel like I feel like I'm at a point now where I could definitely add value to a lot of bands, and that's kind of my goal for this year, is to get more clients, do more genres of music, and I don't know, just diversify and spend more time doing that, and invest back into the studio to make it, make it more, not more capable, because really it's just that gear is not really a limitation, especially like I have enough gear that it's not really me, but you can always upgrade things. So like just put more time and investment in the studio is really my main goal. Path Has Traveled, we're still kicking. We're opening for Royal Tusk next month, which is nice. Cool. At Gateway, and we'll probably have a few more shows. We tracked drums recently for a new song. We were going to put it out last year, but it just wasn't like perfect, I guess. We've got a new member, and we're really like changing the sound a bit and dialing in on it, and it's taken a lot of time, but I think once it releases we'll have some momentum and push forward with it. And we're doing some like outsourcing for the mix, so to try and get like, because I could prepare songs and mix, but like a lot of people who are in bands don't even mix their own bands, they still outsource to somebody else. So I've got it sounding the way I want, but we're shopping to a few like larger people in the States who like I have connections with now as a result of the education thing, who could possibly mix it just to like give it the extra polish and move forward. So that's the plan for the band. I have a daughter, which is very exciting. So I don't know, being a father of a young child, that's like going to be very interesting as she grows and learns how to talk and stuff like that. And I don't know, my wife and I might go on vacation for like a week or something like that, just to like kind of reset. So there's a few things this year that I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now the Path, you guys have been together for how long now?
I think it's 6 years. I believe 2014. Yeah. June 2014. Well, we started in like this December of 2013. Jordan, myself, and my brother, and then we took photos and started writing. Then our first show was June. So this is the One Killer Story podcast, or is there a new name for it?
No, that is the name.
Okay. So I was thinking about what my One Killer Story is, and I thought about a few different things, but I think the thing is how Path started, or how we got our first show was, and I think I might have mentioned this like the first time I was ever on the podcast, but basically, Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath was on a break, so he was in his other band, The Almost, and The Almost announced, hey, we're doing a contest, you guys can open for us, submit your music video. And we're like, okay, we don't have a music video, we don't have any songs released, we don't have anything out. The songs are pretty much ready, and I was like, it was my first stab at recording myself. Someone in California ended up mixing it for us, which was cool. But it still was a very amateur sounding production, and that was on me basically, just because I learned, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, we have a week to make a music video. Let's there's a construction site right by Beacon Hill. We can go there. There's some cool rocks. It'll be a cool background. And then my brother was working at Canadian Tire at the time. So we literally pick him up on his lunch break. He's got 45 minutes. We drive to this construction site. We're like hitting drums and like have loud music and stuff. And like my buddy Luke actually filmed the music video. I just gave him a camera, like just walk around and film us. Like I don't even know. And like the video is bad. It's hidden on our YouTube channel actually, because it's still there. It's fun to watch sometimes, but it's really bad. And then we did another thing in Airdrie where we just found this massive dirt pile, and we're like, Jordan, let's set up your drums here. We just like, it was very like, we got to do this kind of thing. Then I edited the video together, and it was terrible. And we posted it on the contest with like a day before it was going to close, or a day before submissions closed. We made the cut, and then we're like, hey, can you guys vote for us? It was one of the fan voting thing. So we voted, we had people vote for us for, I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that. And then it was a bracket. So every time you'd move forward. So we moved to the next bracket. We're like, oh, this is crazy. So we moved forward again. And then eventually we beat a local band from Spokane. And there was nothing in the rules. We read for sure. You didn't have to be from the States or from Spokane to do it. So we got it. We're like, sick. This is great. And we weren't getting paid a cent. We rented a motorhome from like Cross Canada RV because we didn't like have enough, like a vehicle that could house all of our gear.
And how old were you guys at this time?
Like 22 maybe.
22.
I think so. So the rental was like $2,000. It was just like ridiculous. So we crossed the border, and I'm super stressed about the border because we're playing a show for no compensation. But if bands get turned away at the border all the time for not having. It's very hard for Canadians to play in the States. You need something called a P2 visa. It's very expensive. So I was very stressed about that the whole time. So it was whatever. So we finally got across the border. I was like, great. Oh, one other thing. Our guitar player couldn't make it, and our bass player couldn't make it either. So it was just me, our drummer, and we're like, what? We got to find somebody who could play bass. So we found someone who could play bass, and he didn't really take it seriously. It was very cool that he came out and did it, and the show was still fun. But he didn't really take learning the songs very seriously until an hour before the show, and then he was stressed about it. So that was also great. But Jordan and I were like, man, we have this opportunity open for Aaron's band. We can't not play this show. So then we worked with him, and I'm very, very thankful that he said yes to play with us, because this story is one of my favorite parts about our band. So we drive to the States, drive all night basically, and then show up. We shower at a hockey arena or whatever, show up at the show, and then Aaron's like, yeah, so last night one of the bands lied about where they're from, and they were from Utah and not from this state. So that was kind of dumb, but we had to cancel the show because the promoter canceled it. And so the band lied, and it was really frustrating. So where are you guys from? And it was we are from Canada, which was great. He was just shocked and then kind of walked away. He's kind of an interesting person, Aaron Gillespie. But yeah, then we went out to a different country, playing, spent so much money to get there, played at our first half-hour set, did so many things wrong, but that just showed me that anything is possible in music, and that really it's just human beings at the end of the day. And if you apply yourself to do something, you can do it. And that mentality crossed over into when POD was announced. They hadn't been to Calgary since Set It Off came out in 2001, and I'd never seen them. And I was like, man, I really want to see these guys. And then I was like, we could open for them. That's probably a thing. So I emailed the venue, and then I tweeted the band, and I tweeted the venue, and I posted in the Facebook group for the event and texted all of my friends and said, go like this post so it gets 100 likes so that people see we're serious about this. I finally got the owner of the Marquis number, and we talked for a bit, and then he called me. He's like, so there's another band on the bill, but we'd like to give you this opportunity because you've really pushed. I sent so many emails and phone calls about this, and then we got it, and we did a very, very good job selling tickets and promoting, and also the performance was okay. So that fed into us opening for Finger 11, and then Finger 11 was the same thing. We pushed really hard, and we had a really good relationship with that venue until it closed, and opened for several large bands there, which then fed into our relationship with the Gateway, because, hey, we've opened for these bands here. Here's our portfolio, and we'd love to open for these bands. And then that fed into that, which then fed into the Palace, because your resume just gets bigger. So it all stems from us spending $2,000 to go to the States to open for a band. There's probably 150 people at the show. I don't think we got any fans from Spokane that night by doing it. But it's such a fond memory, and as I'm raising a daughter in this world, I just want to be do that. If you have a passion and something you really want to do, don't let anything stop you. There's always a way to do something. And I don't know. I think that would be my killer story. I really thought about what that would be, and just the joy that band has given me, the path that's traveled, is there's a lot of my identity in it. It's kind of led me on my music production career, because we went to a studio and we spent a lot of money and the results weren't there. And partially that was just us not knowing what we were doing. We'd never been to a studio before and stuff like that. But we just refined to figure out our own sound and how to do that. So that really helped me with my production journey. And I don't know, the band has given me so much. And it all started from entering a contest on a week's notice, shooting a terrible, terrible video with an even worse song. And I don't know, it was cool. So
yeah,
that'd be my story.
It's a crazy ride when you think about it. It's
when you look back, when you're always in the moment, right? But when you sit and just retrospectively look at something, it's very interesting.
I mean, it's hard to visualize, I think, starting playing in a rock quarry, trying to make a video with somebody just to enter a contest to play, and then ultimately doing that to getting to where you guys are. Because, I mean, you've opened for a lot, you've opened for guys like Buck Cherry, like you said, Finger 11, POD, Islander, a lot of these bands, and, it's a continual thing for you guys. Cancer Bats, you name it. So I mean, it's interesting how you like you said, you got to take that first step. Like nobody starts at the top. Nobody says I'm booking my first show when it's a sold out arena. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, like 1 in a million you're gonna get something like that. Yeah. And that would be like you're leveraging someone that for some sort of massive favor you did. Like that's like such a unique. I've heard one instance where a band played a festival first time and kicked off their career. That's a band called Danger Kids. But like other than that, I've not heard of it. And hearing one band out of the amount of bands that I've talked to or networked with or heard about online or communicated through URM or communicated through Band Academy, which is another education thing that I'm involved with. I'm just a member. I'm not like involved in the staff with it, but like I've encountered so many bands to know that one story is the anomaly. It's not the thing. So you've got to take that step and prepare and just put yourself out there for sure.
Yeah. What's your take on the guy that built the websites, built the, fake followings, and then, booked, I think it was a European tour? Is that?
Yeah, it was a European tour.
And then showed up, and that was kind of it.
It's interesting because after it happened, he posted saying, "You're part of the illusion. This was all a publicity stunt." And I don't know. Like maybe he's like, this is what it's become, so sure, I'll say that. He upset a lot of people. He cost a lot of people a lot of money. I don't think what he did was right, but from just an objective perspective, we're talking about him right now. So no PR is bad PR in a sense. And I know he got a lot of record label offers after the case, but I also haven't heard from him since. So, and I think that was about a year ago. I think it was about this time last year where that was coming out. Maybe it was last summer, but yeah, I think fake it till you make it's interesting because people will see through it, but you need to have confidence and believe where you're going to be. And I don't think that's what he did. I think he deliberately manipulated things and twisted things and then upset a lot of people in the process. But if you're a band and you don't have good photos, then like you're not taking yourself seriously. If you're a band and your recordings don't sound good, then you're not taking yourself seriously. If you're a band and your live show is not good, then you're not taking yourself seriously. Yeah. So like you need to always act like where you're going to be because you got to truly have that fire. You got to truly believe inside of yourself that you have what it takes and be self-aware to know this is a skill that I have. I can go in on this or I'm really not that good at this. This is a hobby at best and I'll probably never be excellent at it. It's like skateboarding. I always thought it was cool. I'm not good at it. I'll never be Tony Hawk or I don't know who's cool and popular nowadays, but like I love skateboarding. I played skateboarding games. I love punk music, which is a very strong tie-in with skate culture. And I love skate culture, but like I'm not good at skateboarding, plain and simple. So like any time I spend trying to ollie is an hour I could spend getting better at mixing and production. Right. And that's kind of like you've got to be self-aware of what your skills are and like because it's okay to do something recreationally for fun. Like I'll go around on a longboard and just ride and like I enjoy that.
Oh yeah. I mean, skating's a young kid sport.
I believe that.
I mean, you'd never know by looking around that I like skateboarding whatsoever.
I couldn't tell.
And I used to skate, vert, which I don't do anymore because
vert is crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's just an age thing. I still push around. I don't really do tricks anymore because I value my ankles.
Yeah.
And, when you get to
just
my age,
when you're 18, I guess.
Yeah, when you get to my age, it just kind of there's repercussions. I mean, but I still love to be honest, I love watching young skaters push the envelope.
Some kid just did a 1080. Was that a thing? Like a young person beat?
Oh, maybe.
I think I read that recently, or maybe not even a 1080 because a 900 is 2.5. I think.
2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think someone did 3 or 3.5 in the past like 6 months or a year.
That's crazy. I mean, everybody's pushing the envelope. I like, I'm sure you've all heard of Thrasher Magazine, that clothing company that you love so much.
An amazing hoodie company that's sold at Forever 21.
But they put together videos called My War, which a skater has one feature or one spot where they want to do their one trick, and it's this battle. And I mean, if you watch some of these pros, I mean, it's no joke, 20, 25 stair sets, and they're, when they crash it the first 5 times, like they're not, it's like, oh, I went to hospital for a week and now I'm back. It's,
that's
it's
dedication.
crazy.
And every when you see the amount of hours a skateboarder needs to take to become great, because injury can end your career early and stuff. It's just like, it's truly amazing that at one point someone's like, I'm going to take this piece of wood with 4 wheels and I'm going to jump over 25 stairs.
Yeah.
But in that moment when you're in the air, I think it's kind of like skydiving. You get to live like 1% of 1% of 1% of the world and feel something that no one else will ever feel. Like, I will never know what it's like to do that. I will never know what it's like to, skydiving, like a lot of people do, but like when you just jump off the cliff with the squirrel suit, I could only imagine what that feels like once you've jumped off that ledge and you're soaring and you're gliding through the air. Like, you're literally, everyone has dreams of flying. You're literally flying. But like 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of the human population will know what that feels like. And like, I can only imagine how cool that is to know that, like, I'm doing this. I pushed myself. I jumped. I took that initial leap. And now I'm experiencing something that most human beings will never even be able to begin to understand.
Yeah.
And I guess that ties back into your art and stuff. Just jump off the cliff and do it. And
I mean, it's, the interesting thing I find with extreme sport athletes is a lot of times it's that they really don't care about anything other than just doing it. It's all the other stuff. You experienced
a lot.
Yeah. I mean,
photographer with Red Bull and stuff, right?
Yeah, and the 2 films, and it's you build stuff and go, and like I said, I skated for years and did skate competitions. So I mean, it's a lot of it is just you. It's that soul battle with whatever it's doing, and I think at the end of the day, sometimes most guys like don't really care. I mean, there's guys that definitely go out and they do the competition circuit, and they want the paycheck at the end of the day, and that's brilliant. But, there's a lot of guys that they're just in the trenches, unknown, and they just go out and they do whatever they're going to do, which I think is phenomenal at the end of the day.
Well, it's kind of like what Ronnie Mullen does, for example, is not like extreme, I guess. It's like you're not, jumping like 1,000-foot gap or something, but like the fact that he just had a concrete pad on his farm and was like, I don't have ramps, I don't have anything, but that's not going to stop me from skateboarding. Yeah. Just like he was so creative. He pushed the envelope, does some crazy stuff like with balance that you can't even begin. Have you watched his TED Talk? It's like very, very interesting.
Yeah.
It's only 10 minutes, but like, his story is like, it's amazing what he didn't let his limitations of like not having ramps or whatever. And like, he identified and became friends with Tony Hawk because they were both very much the same individual. They're very like-minded, but just different. Tony would do the vertical tricks and Rodney would do his stuff. I don't know. It's cool to see what the truly greats, like what drove them to create and what drove them to perfection. Like the amount of times Ronnie Mullen like wrecked his kneecap or shins trying to do some of the things he would do on a skateboard, I can only imagine how much pain that would be. And I would imagine after he's got a bruise, he's probably still doing it and just hitting the same bruise over and over again until he lands it. Yeah, that's his personality. That's that's what I see when I see him speak and when I see him do his tricks. It wasn't like, oh, that hurt, I'm going to take a week off and come back to it, which is like a lot of people do. It's like, oh, this didn't go the way I wanted to. Going to the gym, like a lot of things in life, it's like, oh, this isn't how it was supposed to go. I'm going to, chill for a bit. Rodney or Tony would just push through it until they got it. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's there's a lot of perseverance there and a lot of dedication to something, just to doing one thing. Yeah. It's it's crazy. But I think everybody that's passionate about what they do will do that. Like, I mean, you even yourself, you've got projects like The Path. You've got projects that you've worked on like Indefinite Hiatus, and you have other things. I mean, you do song challenges.
Those are fun.
Dylan, who is the podcast before you and him challenge each other on a regular basis.
I wouldn't say like it's no type of rivalry. I think it's very weird to like I'm almost 30. And from a lot of the books I read in life, it's like most people, they get their friends in high school and then they'll have a few after, and then they don't really connect with people. But Dylan and I met like 2 years ago, and we just we started talking. And it was at the grand opening of the venue I work at, and we just started talking. And I feel like we just really got each other's sense of humor, and we're both similar in the sense that we both write songs, produce them ourselves, mix them ourselves. We both do that, and we're both like a big driving force for our musical projects. And Dylan was in a band for a while before his. Well, he was in like 2 bands. He was in like a rap group and an actual like rock band before that. So like we have a lot of similar life experience, and I don't know. We just we connected about it. So I'm very thankful for that friendship. But as a result, instead of us being like, hey, do you want to play D&D this weekend? Which is cool. I'm not sliding it. Just like for us, it's like, hey man, do you want to try and write a song and have these set limitations to see if we can do this? And he's like, yeah, that sounds good to me. So for me, that's cool. To have a friend who likes to push the envelope and try new things. Like when he gave me a rap beat, for example, I was like, this is very intimidating, very scary. I've never done this before, but like, why not have fun, try something new? And I'm sure indirectly something I learned during that recording process will feed back into the next time I'm working with an artist or working on my own song. And I think likewise for him, because he really took the challenge of doing a rock song. It was doing like 80s, like push, like Bruce Dickinson type vocals in some parts of his song. It was very, very cool. And I don't think it's something he's done before. So that challenge was, I enjoy challenges like that, or like writing a song in 4 hours just to see. It's not necessarily to the goal isn't necessarily to write a banger or write something that's just like amazing. It's just to have fun and enjoy the process. And like, I love just recording and creating stuff, regardless of it getting 1 listen or 70 listens or thousands. Like everyone loves recognition, but that can't be the reason why you do something. You got to do it just because you like it.
So what you're saying is we could still see stuff from $KO77.
$K077 is not dead. Yes. I don't know what the future would be with that, but that was just a funny persona that, I don't know. Like I work at a venue. We do a lot of rap shows, and there's so many talented rappers. I don't ever mean to discredit the genre of rap music, because it's very amazing. It's very special. And there's a lot of soul and energy and effort that goes into it, but there's a lot of tropes with it. And I think specifically with rap, the barrier of entry is really low to become a rapper, quote unquote. It's what's romanticized right now. Like it's not really, no one wants to be a rock star. People want to be rap stars right now. And like, that's just how culture is.
Yeah.
But if you want to start a band, technology's made it easier, but I would still say if you want to start a band, you need to meet other people who are at the same level as you on their instruments. You need to come together, write cohesive stuff, etc. For rapping, literally there's websites where you can just download, like lease beats. So you just find a beat that you like, you can lease it, you can exclusively lease it, or just lease it, and then other people can have the same track. And then you need to buy a microphone like this, or like a cheaper one, and an interface and headphones, and then like you can really make your own rap music because there's free recording programs.
Right. So what you're saying is I already have a well-established rap career set up.
You could do a dual rapper kind of thing with this kind of setup. I think. Yeah. I think your career. Well,
we have the other 2 mics, so we could probably have like one of those like mastermind kind of things, where it's several do their little bits.
You could easily do that. I think you should actually, but just the barrier of entry for rap is lower. And everyone needs to start somewhere for sure. But a lot of rappers will just literally take their finished song, have the DJ play it, and then like mouth the words. I see that happen a lot. Or they're speaking, but like their mic is not very loud, so their voice sounds really full. Even like Machine Gun Kelly does this. I watched a live performance of him doing Kill Shot, which is his diss track towards Eminem, and he like lost his breath, took the mic away, and his voice was still there. And like, I think it's one thing if you're doing backing harmonies to supplement the song,
right?
Or like backing, like rap is if you don't know much about music production, rap, you'll have your bar, and at the very end, usually there'll be a double of the voice, so it just sounds thicker to really get the punch of like the enunciation of the final line. And live, what people used to do is they would do that, and they would have a hype guy who would do the ad libs, but he would also do the taglines, so he would match and say the exact same thing at the very end, or so that they could stop and take a breath and go to the next line. But there's that human interaction and connection with it, and I think that's really cool. Like the rap is hard, and if you're pushing that much air with that many syllables, it's hard to do, especially if you want to do a show at the same time. So like I get that you need to supplement it somehow, but completely leaving the original vocal in for me is it's frustrating. It's I don't know if it's like a disrespect thing or if it's like just a lack of like, oh, everyone's doing this. Like, because if Machine Gun Kelly does it, then like, why can't I?
Yeah.
But
it seems a little disingenuous.
That's how I feel about it. I think really the core of it is that, like, if I saw a band like Bring Me the Horizon, I've seen, for example, and they use tracks a lot. Like a lot of tracks, and there was one track where he literally wasn't singing, and like I love Bring Me the Horizon. I think their music is phenomenal. I've seen them 3 times, and I think they're just like their live show is okay. I don't think their live show is that mesmerizing because it's so produced, it's so perfect that I don't enjoy it. When I just saw Sum 41 last year, I guess it was November, they had an intro track, which like we have that.
Yep.
But then it was all live instruments being played by people, and I connect with that more. And like I don't think it's a right or wrong thing. Like maybe I don't think that this is true of rap music. I think it's like it's just my opinion. It's my opinion that if I'm paying to see a live show, I want to see these people perform. If you went to a circus and you saw a video of circus performers doing something versus actually seeing them do this acrobatic stuff, like that's what you're paying to see is a live experience. If I want to hear your track exactly how it sounds without any changes, I can literally save myself $100.
Yeah.
And just listen at home or watch you on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think that, generally speaking, that the vast majority of audiences would feel jilted if they knew that somebody was just, lip syncing essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at bands like Milli Vanilli is probably the most famous one that blew up because it's, they were just lip syncing tracks. Yeah. It wasn't really them. They were just fronted people. I mean, that's a little bit to the extreme.
Yeah.
But there's also incidents throughout, sort of music history where people are, lip syncing and, it just doesn't, it never goes over well with an audience,
No, even if you look at something like WWE, which is fake, everyone knows it's fake, but you're still a 260-pound guy doing a flip off of a 20-foot ladder out of a ring onto like it's a 30-foot drop. Like that is a real spectacle, and that's why people go to see that. It's like these guys are doing these crazy acrobatic stunts. That's like, sure, the script is fake, but the stunts are crazy.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it. I don't know. That's why there's an appeal to go see it. Is like if I watch this at home, it's not going to be the same as if I spend the money to go see this live.
No, and I mean when people are doing things live, I mean something like that, you feel the impact. When they hit the ring and it shakes the floor, you feel that as well. So it's more immersive than sitting on your couch doing whatever you're going to do. And same with a rock show or any show for that matter. It's more immersive because typically your front guys will interact with the crowd and you feel like you're singing with the band or there's those kind of breaks. So I mean, just lip syncing along is not something that I don't think anybody ever wants to kind of see or pay for, really.
No, like there's times where I think it's okay. Like for example, Super Bowl. The purpose of Super Bowl is the football game. It's not the halftime show, right? And then the halftime show needs to be an amazing spectacle that people at home will enjoy as much as people in the theater, not the theater, but the arena. And that stage is literally put on in the center with 5-10 minutes of setup.
Yeah.
So the amount of opportunities for error with a live show like that is astronomical. Yep. And like this is the most watched televised event in North America. So they like the Chili Peppers, for example, like they were like, we're not actually playing. Like they made it very obvious they weren't actually playing. They'd use the audio from the rehearsal the day before, so it's still live, it's still performed by them. But for the sake of a broadcast going well, the stuff is tracked, and like I get that. I think like there's unique circumstances where like you've got to do something like that for the sake of the show. But if I go see Chili Peppers next week, they're playing. Yeah. Right. It's not like they make a habit of it, for example. So like there's specific instances where I think it can be beneficial or when it's necessary. Like the Grey Cup performance, it was Keith Urban. He wasn't actually playing his solos, but it's -20, and like
which your head crazy.
Work.
You know?
Like he's playing in -20 to a bunch of Canadians, and the guitar track sounded live. Like it sounded like he tracked it probably earlier in the week or something like that with the same setup, but it wasn't lined up. But like that's fine because. In that, like, does that mean Keith Urban can't play guitar? No. There's so many videos where you can see that Keith Urban can play guitar.
Yeah, in fact, he's a fairly talented guitarist
amazing
as well.
He's fantastic.
So unfortunately, he's in country. That's
it is tragic, but he's great. He's really good. So like, I think there's a difference between using it as a crutch and like doing it for specific show purposes.
Right.
Like Dylan, who you had last week, he is for the most part a one-man show. Sometimes he contracts a band for bigger shows that he does. We'll have a drummer, guitarist, and bass player just for a live aspect. And like even that, for a rapper to do that is very cool because no one else is doing that, especially not at the local level. So very, very cool. Hats off to him for doing that, first off. But when he's playing by himself, he plays everything off a keyboard and he'll leave his tags or his harmonies in, but his vocals are always live. Like I've done probably 5 or 6 shows with him at my venue. And like when you see 2 to 4 concerts a week for your day job, you get pretty intuitive with what's going on. And like his show is always genuine. He jumps around, he dances, like he like really pushes himself to have a very like, even if you weren't there for him, you're gonna watch what he's doing because he's very, very engaging. And Dylan will do the same show for 20 people or 2,000 people, and that is something that is so hard as a performer to have. Because there's this level of like when we opened for I Prevail, it was 800 people, and literally we walked on stage, I did this, and people lost their minds. Like we didn't have to do anything, so it was like they're already in the palm of my hand, and that was an amazing experience. But like we've played other shows where we open early, and we literally like the ticket time said 9:00, and we're playing at 8:30, so no one's there. Like we've done that before, and it's really hard to like get out of your shell and play to 15 people because it's like it feels awkward, but. I saw Dylan do like a charity haircut show on a Sunday afternoon, and it was the same show he's done as his CD release at the Rec Room. Like he's very, very unique and very, very good at what he does. And I think what he does is it should be a benchmark to a lot of performers. Like you can make your own music and take your lead vocal out, still have your harmonies in. Your track will sound good, but like just do it live, make it organic, make it real. Yeah, I'd much rather see Guns N' Roses and have Slash have 3 or 4 bad notes than Bring Me the Horizon, where like literally it's just perfect. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and that, again, this is not a fact or truth. This is a perspective, and this is my perspective from the amount of concerts I've seen over the years and my view of live music, and this is what I think it should be. But is it fact? No, it's just I feel strongly and passionately about this because I want the bar to raise. I want artists to be better. I want live shows to be better because live music needs to figure out how to encapsulate and maintain an audience. But I don't think the answer is backtracks to a point where you're hiding behind something. Yeah.
I think when you're in a situation like Dylan where you are everything, and he's not, everything that he does, whether it's, producing the video or, everything he does.
I didn't even talk about his videos, man.
It's he does everything, right? Yeah. So he's bringing people on board. It's much like, kind of your story, when you guys first launch out, that you had to get a bassist and you had to get a guitarist, and they're not really interested in playing. And when you're that passionate about it, still that's a risk. It is a risk,
very much so,
because those people might not feel the same way.
They won't, for sure. But like, it's interesting if you're in a group of creatives and everyone is the leader with the vision, you'll probably split.
Yeah, it won't work. It won't work. You see that in video a lot. So, but that's all we have time for this week.
Cool.
Want to say thanks so much for jumping in the last minute. As you know, Fred was supposed to be here today, but some stuff came up. So
I talked to him, and he said he had he just did a performance of Break Stuff with Machine Gun Kelly like a few months ago. And that's getting a lot of attention. Yeah. And I think they're going to do some sort of collab thing at some point.
Oh, nice.
That's what he said anyway. Yeah. So I think that's probably what he's working on, but hopefully I'm sure he'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. I'm sure he will arrive. He does plan on coming, but we'll have more details about that. But thanks again for jumping in the last moment.
Happy to be here.
And that's all we have time for this week. Best place for people to check out your stuff, Scott?
I guess my band's website, tpltband.com, or I never use Instagram, but links are on my Instagram, Scott W. Bennett, or Facebook. I add most people who send me a friend request. As long as we have mutual friends or you're a musician or something, then I'll add you. So Facebook is probably my main thing, but if you don't use it, then we'll find other ways.
Awesome. Until next time, see ya.